There are moments when your heart aches for something you cannot fully explain. You feel a pull, a quiet longing, a deep hunger that nothing in this world seems to satisfy. You meet people, you try connections, you give your time, your energy, your emotions, yet something always feels incomplete. And you begin to wonder, is there truly someone meant for me, or is this just a dream I keep chasing? But what if I told you that your soul was never designed to wander endlessly? What if I told you that before you ever felt loneliness, before you ever experienced heartbreak, before you ever questioned your worth, God had already written a connection so deep, so aligned, so powerful, that when it happens, you will recognize it not just with your eyes, but with your spirit. Because the truth is, God does not introduce people randomly. God does not connect hearts carelessly. And when God introduces you to your soulmate, it is not just a meeting, it is a divine alignment. You see, many people think a soulmate is just someone who makes you feel good, someone who understands you, supports you, and brings you comfort. But that is only the surface. A true soulmate, one sent by God, is not just there to make you happy. They are there to awaken you, to sharpen you, to challenge you, to elevate you into the person God created you to be. And here is the part most people do not understand. Before God introduces you to your soulmate, God prepares you. Yes, before the connection comes, there is a process. Before the meeting, there is a transformation. Before the blessing, there is a breaking. Because if God were to bring that person into your life too early, you would not recognize them. You would misjudge them. You might even lose them. So God begins working on you in ways you do not always notice. God isolates you. God allows certain relationships to fall apart. God removes people who once felt permanent. And in those moments, it feels painful. It feels confusing. It feels like loss. But what you don't realize is God is clearing space. God is removing what is temporary to make room for what is destined. You cry over people who walked away, not knowing they were never meant to stay. You question your value when someone failed to see your worth, not realizing God is protecting you from a connection that would have destroyed your peace. Because when God has someone truly meant for you, He will not allow the wrong ones to occupy that place. And so you go through seasons of loneliness, not because you are forgotten, but because you are being refined. God begins shaping your character. God begins strengthening your patience. God begins teaching you the difference between attachment and alignment. And slowly, something inside you starts to change. You stop chasing. You stop forcing. You stop begging for attention, for love, for validation. Because God is teaching you that what is meant for you will never require you to lose yourself to keep it. And then at the right time, when your heart is no longer desperate but disciplined, when your spirit is no longer broken but built, when your focus shifts from needing someone to becoming someone, that is when God begins to move. The introduction does not always come in a dramatic way. Sometimes it is quiet. Sometimes it is unexpected. Sometimes it happens when you are not even looking. Because when God introduces you to your soulmate, it does not feel like chaos. It feels like clarity. There is a peace you cannot explain, a sense of familiarity, as if your souls recognize each other beyond words. It does not mean everything is perfect. It does not mean there are no challenges, but there is a foundation, something deeper than emotion, something rooted in purpose. And here is how you know this is different. You are not trying to impress them. You are not afraid to be yourself. You are not walking on eggshells, afraid they might leave. Because what God builds does not require constant fear to maintain. And more importantly, they bring you closer to God. Not by words alone, but by their presence, their character, their actions. They inspire you to grow. They challenge you to become better. They remind you of who you are when you forget. Because a soulmate is not just someone who completes you, they align with your purpose. And this is why many people miss their soulmate, because they are looking for comfort, but God is sending growth. They are looking for perfection, but God is sending purpose. They are looking for someone to fill a void, but God is sending someone to walk with them in strength. So they reject what God sends because it does not match their expectations. And they hold on to what God removed because it feels familiar. But you must understand this. God's plan is not based on your comfort. It is based on your destiny, and your soulmate is part of that destiny. But even after the introduction, the journey does not end, because what God brings together must also be protected. You must guard your heart from ego. You must protect the connection from pride, from selfishness, from misunderstanding, because even divine connections require responsibility. God may introduce you, but it is your duty to honor what He has given, to communicate with truth, to act with integrity, to love with sincerity. Because love, when guided by God, is not just a feeling. It is a commitment, a discipline, a responsibility. And there will be moments when things are tested, moments when misunderstandings arise, moments when life brings pressure. But if the connection is truly from God, it will not break easily, because it is not built on temporary emotions. It is built on a deeper foundation. And in those moments, you must remember why God brought you together. Not just for happiness, but for growth. Not just for comfort, but for purpose. And here is something powerful you need to hear. Your soulmate is not your savior. They are not there to fix you. They are not there to complete what is broken inside you. That is between you and God. Because if you expect a person to carry what only God can handle, you will destroy the very connection you prayed for. Instead, your soulmate walks with you, not ahead of you, not behind you, but beside you. Two individuals, both growing, both learning, both striving, guided by the same divine direction. And when that happens, something beautiful unfolds. You no longer feel like you are fighting life alone. You no longer feel like you are misunderstood, because God has aligned you with someone who sees beyond the surface, someone who understands your depths, someone who recognizes your spirit. And suddenly, all the waiting makes sense. All the heartbreak has purpose. All the loneliness was preparation. Because what God was building required time. It required patience. It required trust. And now you see why it could not have happened any earlier. Because you were not ready. They were not ready. But God was always working. And there is something even deeper that many fail to recognize. When God prepares you for your soulmate, He is not only shaping your heart, He is reshaping your vision. Because before alignment comes, clarity must be restored. There was a time when you called attention love, a time when you confused intensity with destiny, a time when you mistook emotional highs for spiritual connection. But God, in His wisdom, began to open your eyes. Not all that feels strong is right. Not all that is exciting is lasting. Not all that stays is meant to grow with you. So God begins to refine your discernment. He teaches you to listen beyond words, to observe beyond appearances, to feel beyond surface emotions. You begin to notice what you once ignored. You begin to value what you once overlooked. And suddenly, Your standards are no longer built on feelings alone. They are anchored in truth. And this is where many become uncomfortable. Because when God raises your standards, it will cost you temporary connections. It will separate you from people who once had access to you. It will cause distance where there was once closeness. And for a moment, it feels like you are losing, but in reality, you are being positioned for something real, positioned for something pure, positioned for something that does not require you to shrink in order to fit. And in this process, God begins to deal with something even more important, your inner foundation. Because you cannot build a lasting connection on a fragile identity. So God strengthens you. He teaches you how to stand alone without feeling empty. He teaches you how to find peace without needing constant reassurance. He teaches you how to love yourself without arrogance and how to value yourself without fear. And when this foundation is established, you no longer approach love from a place of need. You approach it from a place of wholeness. And that changes everything. Because when two people meet from a place of need, they drain each other. But when two people meet from a place of wholeness, they strengthen each other. And this is the kind of connection God orchestrates. Not one built on desperation, but one built on alignment. Not one fueled by fear of loss, but one sustained by trust in God. And here is something that will challenge you. God will not send your soulmate to entertain your insecurity. Ties, He will not send them to validate every doubt or to constantly prove their worth to you. Instead, He will send someone whose presence calls you higher, someone who reflects truth back to you, even when it is uncomfortable. Someone who does not allow you to remain in patterns that limit your growth. Because love, when guided by God, is not always soft. It is also strong. It corrects, it sharpens, it transforms. And sometimes it will confront parts of you that you have been avoiding. But understand this, that is not rejection. That is refinement. Because God does not bring two people together to remain the same. He brings them together to evolve. And this is why patience is not just about waiting. It is about becoming. Becoming the person who can sustain what you are asking for. Becoming the person who can handle a connection that is deeper than surface level attraction. Becoming the person who does not run when things get real, but stands firm in truth. And while you are becoming, God is also preparing the other person. Yes, while you are growing in silence, so are they. While you are learning lessons, so are they. While you are healing, so are they. Because God does not bring one prepared person to an unprepared one. He aligns both in His perfect timing. And that timing is never rushed. You may feel ready today, but God sees tomorrow. You may feel lonely now, but God sees the lifetime ahead. And what He is building must be able to withstand not just moments, but years. So He takes His time. He allows you to experience certain things, not to hurt you, but to teach you. He allows you to face disappointment, not to break you, but to build your resilience. He allows you to encounter the wrong ones, not to confuse you, but to clarify what is right. And through it all, He is guiding you, even when you do not see it. Even when you do not understand it. Even when you feel like nothing is happening. Because God's work is often invisible until the moment it becomes undeniable. And then, one day, without warning, everything shifts. You cross paths, not by force, not by chance, but by divine design. And something within you becomes still. No anxiety, no confusion, no pressure. Just a quiet certainty that this is different. And you begin to realize this is not something you have to chase. This is something you are called to recognize. Because when God introduces you to your soulmate, there is a sense of ease in the connection. Not because everything is perfect, but because everything is real. You are not performing. You are not pretending. You are not trying to be someone else. You are simply being, and that is enough. And that kind of peace cannot be faked. It cannot be forced. It can only be given by God. But listen closely, because this is where many make a mistake. They experience disconnection and they become afraid of losing it, afraid of not being enough, afraid of repeating past pain. And in that fear, they begin to sabotage what God has placed in their life. But you must rise above that. You must trust what God has brought. You must silence the voice of fear with the voice of faith. Because what God has written, fear cannot erase. What God has aligned, doubt cannot destroy unless you allow it. So you must guard your thoughts. You must guard your actions. You must protect the peace that God has given you. Not with control, but with wisdom. Not with fear, but with trust. And as you walk in this connection, something powerful begins to happen. You both start to grow, not apart, but together. You begin to see life differently. You begin to approach challenges with unity. You begin to support each other's purpose, not compete with it. Because where God is at the center, there's no need for comparison. There's no need for dominance. There's no need for control. There's only alignment. And that alignment becomes your strength. A strength that is not easily shaken by outside opinions. A strength that is not dependent on circumstances. A strength that remains even when life becomes difficult. Because your foundation is not built on temporary things. It is built on something eternal. And that is why this connection is not just about love. It is about purpose. It is about two paths becoming one direction. Two journeys merging into a shared mission. Two lives moving forward with intention. And when you understand this, you stop asking, is this the right person? And you start asking, are we aligned with what God wants for us? Because that is the real question. Not just who they are, but who you both are becoming together. And when the answer to that is clear, everything else falls into place. So do not rush the process. Do not force the outcome. Do not let impatience lead you into something that God has not approved. Because what God is preparing for you is worth every moment of waiting. It is worth every lesson. It is worth every season of growth. And when it finally arrives, it will not feel like something new. It will feel like something you were always meant to find. And there is a dimension of this journey that goes even deeper. A place where emotions cannot guide you, where appearances cannot convince you, where even your past experiences cannot define what is happening. It is the place where God begins to speak to your inner being in a way that is undeniable. Because when God is about to introduce you to your soulmate, He does not only prepare your life, He awakens your spirit. Suddenly, you begin to feel a shift within yourself. Things that once attracted you no longer hold the same power. Conversations that once entertained you now feel empty. You begin to outgrow environments, habits, and even mindsets that once felt normal. And you may not understand why at first, but what is happening is sacred. God is elevating your awareness. He is lifting you above distractions. He is pulling you away from anything that could interfere with what He is about to bring into your life. And this elevation is not always comfortable because growth often feels like separation. It feels like you no longer belong where you used to fit. It feels like you are walking alone while everyone else seems to be surrounded. But do not mistake isolation for abandonment. God is not removing you to punish you. He is separating you to position you. Because where you are going, not everyone can go with you. And what God is about to place in your life requires a certain level of clarity, discipline, and spiritual maturity. So He refines you. He teaches you silence, so you do not reveal everything to everyone. He teaches you patience, so you do not rush into what looks right but is not meant. He teaches you self-control, so you do not allow temporary emotions to destroy long-term blessings. And as this process continues, something remarkable begins to form within you. You develop an inner peace that does not depend on external validation. You develop a strength that does not collapse under pressure. You develop a sense of identity that is rooted not in people but in God. And this is critical. Because when your identity is rooted in God, you will not lose yourself trying to hold on to someone. You will not compromise your values to keep a connection alive. You will not lower your standards out of fear of being alone. Instead, you will stand firm. And that firmness becomes a filter that protects you from what is not meant for you. A filter that attracts what is aligned with you. And this is how God begins to narrow your path, not by force, but by transformation. You are no longer chasing everything. You are becoming selective. You are no longer moved by every opportunity. You are guided by discernment. And in this state, you are ready, not because you are perfect, but because you are prepared. And when preparation meets divine timing, introduction becomes inevitable. But hear this clearly. When God introduces you to your soulmate, it will not come with confusion disguised as excitement. It will not come with constant doubt disguised as mystery. It will not come with emotional instability disguised as passion. Because what comes from God carries a signature of peace, a signature of balance, a signature of truth. Even in moments of challenge, there is still a sense of grounding. Even in moments of disagreement, there is still respect. Even in moments of uncertainty, there is still trust. Because this connection is not driven by impulse. It is sustained by intention. And intention, guided by God, creates stability. Now understand this. Stability does not mean stagnation. It does not mean everything is always easy. It does not mean there are no trials, because anything valuable will be tested. And when God brings two people together, He allows certain tests to reveal the strength of that connection, not to destroy it, but to solidify it. There will be moments where your patience is challenged, moments where communication must be intentional, moments where understanding must replace assumption. And in those moments, you are given a choice to react based on emotion or to respond based on wisdom. And this is where many fail, because they allow temporary feelings to override permanent purpose. They allow pride to speak louder than truth. They allow ego to damn. Age what God has established, but you must be different. You must recognize that what God has given you is not ordinary. And anything that is not ordinary must be handled with care. So you choose humility over pride. You choose communication over silence. You choose understanding over assumption. Because you know this is bigger than just feelings. This is alignment. This is purpose. This is something God Himself has allowed to exist in your life. And when you carry that awareness, your actions begin to reflect it. You become more intentional, more patient, more grounded. And that intentionality strengthens the connection. Because love that is guided by God is not reactive, it is deliberate. It is built through choices, not just emotions. It is sustained through commitment, not just attraction. And as you continue in this journey, you begin to witness something powerful. You begin to see how both of your lives start to align in ways that cannot be explained by coincidence. Opportunities open. Doors that were once closed begin to shift. Situations that once felt complicated begin to simplify. Because when God aligns two people, He also aligns their paths. He creates an environment where growth is not only possible, but inevitable. And this is where purpose becomes visible. You realize that this connection is not just about companionship. It is about impact. It is about building something that extends beyond yourselves. Something that reflects the order, the discipline, and the truth that God has placed within you. And when you reach this level of understanding, your perspective changes completely. You no longer see your soulmate as just someone to love. You see them as someone to walk with in purpose, someone to support, to strengthen, to uplift, as you both move forward under the guidance of God. And this is where true unity is formed. Not in perfection, but in alignment. Not in constant agreement, but in mutual respect. Not in dependency, but in partnership. And this partnership becomes a reflection of the discipline God has built within both of you. But even here, you must remain vigilant, because blessings can be tested not only through hardship, but also through comfort. When things are going well, when peace is present, when everything feels stable, that is when many become careless. They stop putting in effort. They stop communicating with intention. They stop appreciating what they once prayed for. And slowly, without realizing it, they begin to weaken what was once strong. But you must not fall into that. You must remain consistent. You must remain grateful. You must continue to honor what God has placed in your life, not just in difficult moments, but in peaceful ones as well. Because consistency is what preserves what God has built. And gratitude is what protects it. So never take lightly what God has given you. Never assume it will remain strong without effort, because even divine connections require responsibility. They require care. They require awareness. And when you carry that awareness, you move differently. You speak with intention. You act with purpose. You love with sincerity. And through it all, you remain connected not just to each other, but to God. Because that is the foundation, that is the source. That is what holds everything together. Without it, even the strongest connection can weaken. But with it, even the most challenging moments can be overcome. So as you continue on this journey, remember this truth. God is not only the one who introduces you to your soulmate, He is the one who sustains the connection. He is the one who strengthens it. He is the one who guides it. And as long as you remain aligned with Him, you will never be lost. You will never be without direction. You will never be without purpose. Because what God has written is not temporary. It is intentional. It is powerful. And it is meant to unfold exactly as He has planned. And now, as this message comes to its final moment, I want you to stand still within yourself for just a second and truly understand what has been spoken into your spirit. Your life is not random. Your waiting is not wasted. Your loneliness is not a punishment. And your desire for a soulmate is not meaningless. It was placed within you by God for a reason. But that reason was never just about finding someone. It was always about becoming someone. Because before God connects two souls, He calls each soul into alignment with Him. He calls you out of confusion into clarity. He calls you out of dependency into strength. He calls you out of broken patterns into disciplined purpose. And in that calling, you are shaped, you are refined, you are elevated, so that when the moment comes, you are not just ready to receive love, you are ready to sustain it. And that is the difference. Many people can find someone, but very few are prepared to keep what they find. That is why God takes His time, because He is not interested in temporary connections. He is not interested in emotional excitement that fades with time. God is intentional, and what He builds is meant to last. So if you are still waiting, do not become weak in your faith. Do not allow doubt to enter your mind. Do not let the pressure of time push you into something that God has not chosen for you. Because what God has written for your life does not expire. It does not pass you by. It does not get lost. It arrives at the exact moment you are meant to receive it. And when that moment comes, you will not have to chase it. You will not have to question it. You will not have to fight to hold it together, because it will come with a peace that confirms this is from God. But until that moment, your responsibility is clear. Grow. Discipline your mind. Protect your heart. Strengthen your connection with God. Become the person that your future requires. Because your soulmate is not just a blessing for you, you are also meant to be a blessing for them. And when both are prepared, when both are aligned, when both are walking under the guidance of God, then the introduction happens. Not by chance, not by force, but by divine will. And when it happens, it will not just feel right, it will be right. So hold your faith. Stay patient. Trust in God's timing, even when it is silent. Because the same God who is preparing your path is also preparing the one who will walk it with you. And when your paths finally meet, you will understand something that words could never fully explain. That everything you went through, every delay, every heartbreak, every moment of doubt was not there to stop you. It was there to lead you directly to what God had already chosen for you.